Hello everyone, what's up? It's me again, Junkmaster3, and let's see, it's time for another update video. I know it was a while since I made one last time. We'll see how well this goes. I usually try to put the films in different types of genres. I mean, I usually put all the horror films in the same section of the video, so that's pretty much what I'm gonna try to do as well. So I'm going to start with the non-horror titles, and then I'm going to go to the horror DVDs, and then I'm going to go to the non-horror Blu-rays, and then the horror Blu-rays, if that makes any sense. So, but anyway, that aside, let's begin right away. First up, we have a VHS, the only VHS that I picked up. The film is called Kid, and this is also known as Road to Revenge, and this is from the early 90s, and this has C. Thomas Howell in it. I'm so glad I found this, because from what I understand, this doesn't have a UK or Region 1 DVD release. I think it only has like a German DVD release, which I would love to get a hold of, but as of now I'm so glad I have the film itself, because I think this is a really underrated like revenge type tale in general. So if you like those type of films in general, I could definitely recommend this one. So yeah, Kid, also known as Back for Revenge, I believe it was called also. Then the next one is a film by Massimo Dallamano. The film is called The Cult 38. I think this might have been released in one of those new like Blu-ray releases, but I thought, well, I should get the DVD instead, because I think it was probably much cheaper as well. And this one also comes with what's the other film called? The Rip-Off, I believe the other film is called. So there's two films in this set, so that is pretty cool. Italian 70s crime films. And the next one is called A Man Called Magnum, right there. Sorry for the glare, I'm doing my best, but yeah. I think it's directed by the same guy. I'm not too sure. Might be. I'm not too sure. And then the next one is a film called The Black Angel. Some Japanese revenge tale, I've been told. This also has a sequel, which I'm definitely going to seek out if I'm a big fan of this one. So yeah, Black Angel from the early 2000s, something. So yeah. And then I picked up this one. This one was really hilarious and really had me laughing out loud. It's by the makers of South Park, and the film is called Orgasmo. Yeah, look at that. Really weird looking cover art. Looks definitely more, if you look at the cover, it kind of looks more like a 70s film than a like 90s film in general. So, and then we have a comedy film from the 80s called All's Fair. Never heard of this one before. It's pretty much a blind buy, but I thought, well, it's an 80s comedy film, could be fun. So yeah, All's Fair. And then I picked up this one. I think this might be based on true events, and I think this is also like a made-for-TV film. I mean, back in the 90s, seems like made-for-TV films were really like quality stuff. I mean, all the films that came out like after the year 2000 just seems like they were really cheap and really badly made in general. But this one I've only heard really good things about, and the film is called Cry in the Wild, The Taking of Peggy Ann, some sort of abduction type film or like kidnapping case. Not read about the case itself, but I've heard really good things about the film, so yeah. And then we have some early 80s exploitation, sleaze, trash type deal, I believe, and the movie is called Mad Foxes. Yeah, sorry for the glare, like usual, but yeah, doing my best. Heard some really fun things about that one. Then we have, I think this was released in the 70s. No, it was made in the 70s, but I don't think it was released up until like 82 or 83. And the movie is called Cutter's Way. This is based on some novel, which I had not heard about before. It seems like most of the time when it comes to films that are based on novels, that they kind of be like, they're like 50-50. Either people really hate it or they really love it. So, but yeah, Cutter's Way. And then we have a film which has to be, yeah, it is directed by Godfrey Ho, of course. And the movie is called Ninja Destroyer. Yeah, really love that cover art. I don't really like the whole thing which the Germans put like this big large 18 logo down here. I think it looks really stupid, but that's just my personal opinion. But the cover art itself is really great. And I actually think, in not all of the cases, but you know, if you're looking for German releases or like German DVDs in general, I think in some cases you can actually flip the cover art to get rid of the 18 logo in some cases. So yeah. So the next film is called Into the Wild. This one I saw on TV like I think it was half a year ago or something, and I thought this was truly amazing. Really touching story, really like sad as well. Sort of like a bittersweet film in general, based on true events as well. So yeah, I loved this film. If you like dramas and you haven't seen this one, check it out. So the next one is another one of those that I've been on the hunt for quite some time, and the movie is called Lawman. This is by Michael Winner, I believe. Yeah, Michael Winner, and with Burt Lancaster, Western action type deal. So yeah. And then let's see here. What is this called? Oh, of course, it doesn't even say the title on the back because it's a Swedish release. Yeah, there we have it. The Duchess and the Dirty Water Fox, I believe it's called, with Goldie Hawn. 70s Western, late 70s Western film. At this point, I think most of those westerns just felt like they just died out in general. So yeah, that's what it is. So yeah, let's continue. The next stack is the horror DVDs. I'm not sure if all of these are like specifically horror films, but the first like 3 or 4, no, let's say the next 4 or 5 titles are actually released by Mondo Macabro. So I thought I put them in the same section of the video. So first up, we have some Indonesian fantasy action type deal called The Devil's Sword. Why can't you see anything? Because it's so goddamn dark, even though it's so bright in here. Yeah, The Devil's Sword. Always wanted to see this one. Looks really amazing and really fun. So yeah, probably a cheese fest. Then we have Don't Deliver Us from Evil. Some 70s sleaze satanic type cult film, I believe. So yeah. And then we have a Giallo film, which is considered a lost Giallo classic according to the front of this DVD case. The Killer Must Kill Again. Yeah. And by the way, I might have showed you some of these films in any previous update video. Sometimes I just forget which films I've been showing you, so sorry for that if that's the case. So the next one is a film which I mainly want to seek out because this is directed by the same guy who directed Alucarda, which I was a big fan of. I'm not sure if this came up before or after that, but the film is called The Mansion of Madness. Yeah, really weird looking cover art. And then the next one, the last Mondo Macabro release, I think this is a Greek film. A Greek Giallo type deal. I know that sounds really weird, but The Wife Killer, right there, yeah. And then the next one, I am a big fan of vampire films in general, and this is a film that I didn't even knew had a DVD release up until I saw it for sale, so I thought I really need to get this film. The movie is called Midnight Kiss from the early 90s. Pretty simple cover art, but still pretty cool in my opinion, so yeah. Then we have a shot on video film, I think. Well, if it is shot on video, it has to be one of the very earliest ones, like, of all time, actually. I can be totally wrong about that, but I've always wanted to see the film itself, so Long Island Cannibal Massacre. Yeah. And this is by the guy who directed Weasels Rip My Flesh and what was that other film called? They Don't Cut the Grass Anymore, I believe it's called. So, not seen any of those ones either, but I have them in my collection, and they seem to be really charming little like low budget films in general. So yeah. Then the next film is actually an Argentinian film, I believe. Yeah, Argentinian film. Not seen too many of those. The only one that I come to think of is the Snuff 102, which I wasn't really that big fan of. But the film is called I Should Not Die Alone, I believe it's called. I Will Not Die Alone. I think that could be another title because it's a Swedish title on the front. So mid 2000s exploitation film. Seems like a throwback 70s film in general. So yeah. Then we have Three Extremes. I think this is some sort of anthology film by the Pang. No, not. Let's see. Fruit Chan, Shanwook Park, and Takashi Miike. Takashi Miike was the main reason why I want to get this film, or because of his short film in this. So, or short story, you could say. So yeah. Then the next one is a film by John Rowland. He is mostly famous for his really sleazy vampire films, but this is some other type of sleaze, I assume. The film is called Schoolgirl Hitchhikers. I think this DVD is pretty hard to come across. That's the reason why I picked it up. Yeah, got it for a really good price as well. So yeah. Then we have a horror comedy. Maybe more comedy than horror, to be honest, just based on the cover art and everything. This has Frank Stallone in it, and the movie is called The Pink Chiquitas. Yeah, mid-80s fun, probably. Then we have another vampire film. This has to be, it's a Roger Corman production from the late 90s. The movie is called Club Vampire. Yeah. And then we have a film which I think is very underrated. I think it's very effective. I mean, it is a fairly old film as well. This is from the 60s, and if I remember correctly, this was pretty violent for a 60s film in general. This guy who directed this, he's directed some really terrible, awful films, but don't let the name of the director fool you, because this one I actually think is his best film. The movie is called The Thrill Killers. The director's name is Ray Dennis Steckler. If that doesn't sound like a serial killer to you, that just sounds like that with the name and everything. But this one is actually pretty damn entertaining. So yeah, Thrill Killers. So now we move on to the Blu-rays. First up we have a film called Destruction Babies. Not seen, but some, I think, Japanese action comedy revenge tale, I believe. So yeah. Then we have another Japanese film. This is a... Oh, I had no idea about this. Apparently this is limited to 3,000 copies, but the movie is called Retaliation. Yeah, some samurai yakuza type deal, I believe. So yeah. Then we have a film which I thought sounded really interesting because it's a film from South Africa, I believe, and this is from the 70s, and the movie is called Yo Bullet. Yeah. And then the next one, this one I actually really enjoyed, but I think the main problem with the film, I'm not really that big fan of films that but films that have the main character narrating what he's doing in the film. I think that sounds really stupid. But other than that, I think this is a really underrated and fun little film. So, Cuffs with Christian Slater. I think he's really great in this film, even though I don't like the narration bits in it. Other than that, it's a really charming little 90s action type deal. So some of the storyline doesn't really make a whole lot of sense, but it's a really fun film to just turn off your brain and enjoy it. So yeah. And then we have, I think this is it's a Vinegar Syndrome release. The movie is called Punk Vacation. This is really fun and really great, especially the ending, which I'm not going to spoil, but yeah, and just based on that cover with slipcover, it's just amazing. I'm not saying it's an amazing film or anything, but it's a really fun cheese fest, if that makes sense. So yeah, Punk Vacation. Then we continue with the Japanese Yakuza type films. The film is called Yakuza Law. I think this might be a... Is this a Kinyu... No, this is a Tero Ishii film. And Tero Ishii, it seems like Arrow has gotten some sort of great deal with Tero Ishii films lately, because it seems like they've released almost all of his filmography at this point, so yeah. Then we have a film, I think this has to be this is a blaxploitation film, and the film is called Willie Dynamite. Really cool looking cover art, really screams 70s in my opinion, so Yeah, 73 as well. So yeah. Then we have a mid-80s action revenge type film called Walking the Edge. Yeah, I'm not sure if it's the same. Yeah, it's the same cover art on the other one, so yeah, doesn't really make a whole lot of sense for me to show you underneath, but yeah, only heard good things about that. Then we have Western films, filmed by, the first one is by Sergio Corbucci, and I think Sergio Corbucci is definitely one of the better Italian, like, Western directors out there. He directed the first Django film, and he directed the, what was the film called? The Navajo Joe, and he directed the, what was that other film called? Never mind. But this one, yeah, I picked up because it's directed by Sergio Corbucci, so The Specialists, yeah, 60s, or early 70s it might be, late 60s, early 70s Western film. And then the next one is a film with Franco Nero, and you know it's a Western film. The movie is called Man, Pride and Vengeance. Not too sure who directed this. I think it could be... Oh, of course, it doesn't say on the back anywhere who it's directed by. Well, Luigi Bassoni, who I'm not familiar with, but might have seen one of his films before. I'm not too sure, but yeah. So the next, well, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. The next 4 titles are like horror films, so yeah. First up, we have a film called Cold Light of Day, which is like based on true events of a serial killer in the UK. It sounded really interesting. Kind of sounded like the UK version of Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer, or like a similar type of storyline. Another reason why I wanted to get this was because it is a limited edition, and I thought, well, better get a hold of it before it gets out of print and really expensive. So yeah. So the next film is, oh, you're gonna ask yourself why I picked this one up, but this had so many, like, this is a limited edition as well, limited to only 1,000 copies, and this one has plenty of like special features to it. Melancholy der Engel, which I still say is the not the worst, but the most disturbing film I've seen, and this is, I mean, to a certain degree, I'm kind of tired of films like that in general, because it seems like after I watched this, it just felt like nothing could really top it, and after that, it just felt like a pissing contest with directors trying to be more disturbing or more grotesque than the other, and not focusing too much on the storyline. This is kind of a film that I hate some parts of it, but at the same time, it's a film that it's such a film that you could never like just forget about. But anyway, Melancholy Drangle, for those of you who've seen it, you know exactly the whole storyline about it, probably, at this point. The next one is a film called Red Angel, released by Arrow as well. 60s horror war type film, I believe. This is from the 60s. Yeah, 66, so yeah. And the last one, another Japanese film. This is actually only limited to 555 copies. And it's sort of like a, could you say it's a Pinku film? I know I'm not really too familiar with Pinku in general, but according to the front of this, it's sort of like a newer slasher film, not slasher, but newer giallo film from Japan, which sounds really interesting. The movie is called Maniac Driver. Yeah, I saw the trailer for this and I thought, well, I need to get a hold of this because this looks really incredible and really amazing. So, yeah, Maniac Driver. So that's all of the for the update video for today. We'll see. Maybe I'm gonna do another ranking video or another top 10 list or a review. Who knows? We'll see what happens in the near future. But anyway, hope you enjoyed, and take care and see you next video. Bye bye.